Hey folks, today we are going to make a knockoff of Applebee's Bourbon Street chicken and shrimp. Not the Bourbon Street steak, but their chicken and shrimp. I got to tell you that their execution and presentation was probably a little bit better in the restaurant, but the flavors are dead on here. So, not the easiest meal we've created on this channel, but it's certainly one of the best, and I hope you try it because it is absolutely insanely delicious. First, I got to say that has nothing to do with bourbon. If you've ever been to New Orleans, the main street through the Spanish Quarter is Bourbon Street. That's where all the famous bars and nightclubs are, that when you think of New Orleans, Mardi Gras, that's what you think of. So nothing to do with actually bourbon. It has everything to do with New Orleans flavor. And I would say that this dish really does capture that. It's got some Cajun in it. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got mashed potatoes. Here's a look at the ingredients. Your vegetation is pretty simple. Some chicken, mushrooms. We use some curly parsley. I used the cheapest shrimp I could find. I don't really know why. And then a bunch of spices, but nothing real complicated here. So let's go ahead and mix up some of our spices here. This is really the key to this dish, is getting these spices. So we start with a tablespoon of oregano, then a tablespoon of parsley flakes. Really simple. That's nothing complicated. You probably already have it. Then we'll go with a tablespoon of onion powder. Most likely you already have that in your pantry. Somebody told me once while I was at New Orleans, tour guide, here's another one, celery seed. You may not have that one, so tablespoon of that. The tour guide told me that the Mardi Gras parade, the main parade, does not and has never gone down Bourbon Street. So can somebody confirm that with me? Put it in the comments. I'd love to know, especially from a local. All right, next, tablespoon of paprika. You probably already have it. Or was that a teaspoon? I think that was a tablespoon. Anyway, can't really go wrong here. Then we'll do a tablespoon of onion powder. Garlic powder. Here is my favorite seasoning. This is a Zatarain's blackening seasoning. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of heat to it, so be careful with this one. The recipe says a tablespoon, but hey, I really like this spice, so I like to throw in a little bit of extra. Then a nice little pinch of salt. Give that a little shake. This is the basis of this whole dish. This is where all of our flavors are going to come from. So next, let's dice up some of our vegetation. Start with an onion. Now, I was amazed at how much the onion cooked down in this dish, because we're going to saute it, we're going to cook it a while, then we're going to deglaze, and the onions really cook down to next to nothing. So if you want to throw in an extra onion here, that would be quite all right. The next time I make this dish, I think I will throw in an extra onion just for volume's sake, because I really like the onions in this dish. They're first we're going to caramelize them and then later deglaze, and it's just a lot of flavor, especially with those spices we just showed. Now, I talk about this a lot, but the whole purpose of this channel is to educate, teach what we know, try new things, share what we've learned. But if you're new to cooking, notice how my knuckles are peeled back. We never want to give ourselves a chance to chop off our fingertips. So be sure when you're chopping, just have your fingertips back like that. There's a better way to teach that technically, but that's the basis of it. Now, our mushrooms, just do a rough chop here. Nothing complicated. And yes, I wash my mushrooms. You know, the great Alton Brown did an episode on washing your mushrooms, and they don't absorb the water. And the alternative to that is to brush them, and knowing that they grow in compost, I would just assume get all of that off my mushrooms if I possibly can. All right, next we're going to add some garlic. Believe it or not, this is all the garlic that the grocery store had that day. If people are watching this in 10 years, these are the days of supply chain issues. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, the store is no longer full of everything that we came accustomed to, and we've just become accustomed to taking what we can get that day. I know, kind of sad. I miss the America I grew up in. So, nothing complicated here. Just take the broadside of your knife, crush it, and that's going to let you get the paper off a lot easier, and then we'll just coarsely chop these. And if you see that little brown end of the garlic, sometimes I like to cut those off, especially if it's too prominent, but we're not in this dish. We're just going to throw the big cloves in. It's crushed, so some of the oils have been released, and that's really nice. Now I'm just going to chop up some of our curly leaf parsley. This is going to be a garnish later, so just set that aside when you can. Flat leaf parsley is fine. I just thought I'd try curly leaf today, so here it is. All right, now let's get our chicken cutlets seasoned. If you wanted to, you could certainly tenderize these cutlets with a mallet, just pound them out, and that would make them a little thinner, maybe a little tenderized. Certainly couldn't hurt here. They would cook faster. Now, I'm adding in some kosher salt on the outside of or the chicken before we add their spices. I know there's salt in these spices. I didn't make the recipe. I'm just trying to follow it here and teach what I can. So put your spice mix all over it. Pat it in. Don't be stingy with it. That's probably not enough. Now from here, let's go ahead and throw in some olive oil to what's left of the spice mixture. This is going to be the base for our shrimp. Not necessary, but I always pull the tails off of my shrimp when I'm cooking. I just don't like to pick them out when I'm eating. That's just personal. Most places cook them with the tails on. I don't like that, so I always peel them, or not peel them, but rip off the tails beforehand. So give that a good stir in this olive oil and spice mixture, and we're going to set that aside and let that be marinating in. That's just a ton of flavor going into to our shrimp. So that's going to be really good later. Next up, we've got a cast iron grill. Noticed how the we have ridges raised in this. Going to go ahead and get that hot with some olive oil on it. This is going to give us a really nice sear. Throw in some butter here. This is the first time I'm cooking with this pan. It's pre-seasoned Lodge brand. Bought it at Bass Pro Shop. You can get these on Amazon or anywhere else cookingware sold. They're pretty common, but nice heavy cast iron pan. But first time I'm cooking with the ridges, the grills, so we'll see what it does. First off, we're just going to go ahead and throw in our onions and garlic and mushrooms. Now, if it had too much oil in it, don't really worry about that because the mushrooms are going to absorb a lot of the oils and butter. And this takes about 10 minutes to get to this point where your onions are starting to caramelize. It's a lot of heat, so give it time, give it patience. It will be worth it. All right, next, go ahead and make room for our chicken. And this is a hot pan. This is not medium. This is hot. So throw in your chicken there. And again, those grates are going to give a nice sear mark. So see those sear marks on the left. See how it was a little raw on the right. I'll get back to that. But check out the sear marks on the bottom chicken. That's what we are looking for. Now go ahead and throw in your shrimp. Now, the reason that chicken was a little raw on one side is even with a cast iron pan, it's not going to distribute heat well enough if you're cooking on a small eye, which I am in the back. I should be using one of the bigger eyes. However, I have small children that I would rather flip the chicken one more time, rotate it, whatever, so to prevent them from me ever being able to reach up and touch a smoking hot cast iron skillet. So that is purely a safety measure I have in my house, just to protect those little hands from getting burned. But if you can, put it on a bigger burner. It'll be a lot smoother. Even with cast iron, your heat's just not going to be distributed as well as it should on those small eyes in the back. All right, now go ahead and get ready to deglaze. You can deglaze with wine, I guess, but we're going to deglaze with some chicken broth. That's probably a little too much, but hey, that's what was left in the container. And we're just going to let this simmer down. Now, notice how much our onions and mushrooms have cooked down. It's pretty drastic here. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and pick my shrimp out and get ready for serving. So here we go. Let's serve it up. If you've not seen our video on my friends call it potato crack, take a look. It's the best potatoes, mashed potatoes you'll ever have. And I'll tell you that I think Applebee's beats me on the presentation and the delivery, but the flavors here are just dead on. It is absolutely an incredible dish. Not the easiest one we've made. There was a lot of steps to it, but certainly one I would make again. And I'll tell you, this is a very hearty, very filling meal. You've got meat and potatoes with just a ton of flavor. So we're going to go ahead and throw some of that parsley that we chopped up earlier as a garnish. And isn't that just good looking? I think that's a very colorful, very good looking presentation, and the flavors are just awesome. If you're looking for a dish to impress your friends for your cooking ability, this would certainly be one of them. So I hope everybody tries this. Hope you will like the video, subscribe. It really helps us out. Please leave some comments, and I really do hope you guys try this one.